All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG podcast, and today we're going to be discussing Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Eric pressured me into playing this game a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad he did. I had a lot of positive things to say about the game.
I know what's good for you.
Yeah, and I do have some criticism for it too. So, it's going to be with any game. But before we jump into that, if this is your first time watching this video, what we do here is we just do basically every episode's dealing with RPGs, as you can probably guess. But once a month, we do go through an in-depth review or a discussion of an actual RPG. So it's one game a month that we're focusing on. And then the rest of the episodes, we do more topic-based and try to hit games more casually. However, we're going to be starting a new segment here. So if you want to skip that and go straight into the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic talk, there's going to be some links in the bottom of the description on the YouTube page, and I'll put it in the audio version as well on iTunes. And that way you can just click on those links, and it'll take you straight into the Star Wars talk. But we're going to try experiment here with a new segment in which we're just going to talk about what we've been playing outside of what we're reviewing. So that way we can talk about some other games that we might not want to do a whole episode on, but just so we can talk about whatever we're into at the moment. And that way, if you haven't played this game or any other games in the future, you can still watch the episode, and there's still something there for you. So, without further ado, Eric, you got something for today?
Oh, I've been doing a couple things lately. A couple things people gave me for Christmas. So I went through Uncharted Lost Legacy first, and that was actually a great experience. It was pretty short. It was like about a 5-hour game. But for how much it costs today, it's worth going through if you like the series. Chloe, I think makes a great protagonist and a potential running protagonist for Uncharted 5, if they ever decide to make that.
They made that game in like a year, I think, right? Like, it was a really quick turnaround.
They used a lot of assets from Uncharted 4, so it was quick to get something out.
Acceptable in my book.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep going.
And then I played Blossom Tales on the Switch. It's on PC also. It's a very shameless clone of Zelda, and it does go out of its way to tell you it's a shameless clone of Zelda, like just down to the dialogue and everything. It's
That's what it's trying to do.
It's pretty fun if you like the classic 2D over-the-head Zelda type games like Link to the Past or Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. There is something to enjoy out of this. I think the boss battle difficulty spikes make it feel a little imbalanced, and there is some balance issues to it. And it doesn't really do anything special outside of being a Zelda clone. But if you like those type of games, it's right up your alley. It's only $15 for it. Other smaller titles, I'm doing like Axiom Verge, which is a great not Metroid game, and I've been going through Master Mode of Breath of the Wild and collect on Mario Odyssey. So I've been keeping myself occupied, but it's a lot to take in. But that's just
very cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously, besides I just beat Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic a couple of days ago, but in addition to that, I was actually inspired to go and start replaying Mass Effect again, because I know that BioWare chose to, or at least from what I was reading, chose to make Mass Effect over Knights of the Old Republic sequel. So I kind of wanted to revisit that game and kind of like look at it through that lens. Because I didn't really like the game that much the first time I played it, so this time I'm kind of going through and seeing some of the similarities with that other game. So I'm enjoying it a little bit more, but also I found this new game on Steam. It's kind of new. It came out like maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and it's called Cosmic Star Heroine. It's basically a Phantasy Star / Chrono Trigger tribute game, but it was made by 2 developers. It took them about 5 years to make. One's an artist, one's a programmer. Then they outsourced the music, which is phenomenal, by the way. And it's the artwork is amazing. The battle system is very Chrono Trigger-esque. Like, you just run up to enemies and they just pop out and you battle. However, the battle system is very, very strategic. You can only use abilities one time, and then you have to let them charge. So I find myself thinking 3 and 4 moves ahead of time. It's kind of like chess almost. It's very, very good. The dialogue is kind of cheesy, so it's not. I don't think it's going to be like a phenomenal story, but as far as like presentation goes, it's very, very nostalgic for me. So I was up till like 4 o'clock in the morning last night playing it. So I'm really liking it. I highly suggest anyone go check it out. You can get it on Steam. I think you can get it on the PS4 and also I think the Vita. But right now it's on sale on Steam for like $8. But PS4 I think it's like $15. So, but dude, it's good, man.
I'm crossing my fingers for a Switch version on that.
Yeah, I think that would be I think that'd be really cool. I think I was reading up that they're actually trying to do that. So I'm kind of upset because if you Google it, everywhere else gives the game like glowing reviews except GameSpot. They gave it a 6 out of 10, which they got a pre-review, like they got like a really early version of the game. So if you read the review, it's nothing but like they're just like giving it so many compliments. But then the like last paragraph, they just trash it to death because it had like bugs that they hadn't worked out because it's only a 2-person team, you know. So, but you know, now it's been 7 months. They've worked out all the bugs. So, it's a good game. So, other than that, I guess it's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic time.
Oh boy.
We've been ambushed by a Sith battle fleet. The Endar Spire is under attack. Hurry up, we don't have much time.
I'm kind of curious, when did you first play this game? Did you play it like when it came out or did you play it later?
It was actually the game that I actually got an Xbox for because, you know, when I was younger, I was definitely not open to like the Western style games as much as I am today. But I love Star Wars, and I heard there was like an RPG for it, and the best way to get it at the time was on the Xbox. So Christmas came around, and I got an Xbox, and I got that game along with, I think, like 2 or 3 other ones, like Jet Set Radio Future. And I played it, and I was just addicted to it, just like the whole way through. I played and beat it like the light side, and then like a few months later, I played and beat it through the dark side. It's what introduced me to BioWare. I think it's what introduced a lot of people to BioWare. Yeah. And, like, just ever since then, I've just always wanted to buy what they have, like with Jade Empire, then Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. It was like, when I didn't care too much for Westerns at the time, like, BioWare was one of the exceptions, definitely.
Yeah, you know, I was doing some research just because that's what I like to do on the history of the games, and it seems that this game was a big deal for BioWare. It actually put them in the forefront, or I don't want to say forefront because, you know, they had a recognition before that, but it seemed like it actually put them on the map and as far as being mainstream. This was a big deal for them, so I can definitely see how that definitely got people interested in BioWare. You know, because it's a great game. It's great storytelling. So, but I do think that time has not been kind to some aspects of this game, and because I was kind of curious because when I look up reviews of this game, it seems like people that got it right when it came out, they're like, this is the greatest RPG of all time. And then people that like me that like waited to play it till, you know, like a decade later, they're like, yeah, it's a great game, but it's got some glaring issues. That's when I was curious, like, when did you start playing it? Because I saw it came out in November 2003, so almost 2004. I could see how if I got the game then, I think I would have been kinder to some of the issues because There's things like fast travel that I did not see in the games. Like I'm just like constantly like running all over the place. I'm like, dude, I've already been there. Just let me teleport there.
I can take a guess on the stuff that you are finding glaring issues with it, and it's very true. The game hasn't aged that well. It's because it's why a lot of people.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's like because a lot of people are asking for the remake nowadays. Is similar to Final Fantasy VII. Is like there's a lot of aspects about this that are outdated, and we would love like a modern Knights of the Old Republic, but with how BioWare and EA are, it's likely not going to happen. There's rumors about it, but with how BioWare has been lately and EA, I'm not sure if it's ever going to be a thing. I could be proven wrong, but I'm not very optimistic on that. But in regards to the original game itself, there are. I mean, it's graphically outdated looking. It still looks a little decent, but it does show its age. And like the choice dialogue systems and everything, if you've played like the later BioWare games, it feels primitive towards it. But as someone who played it in 2003, nostalgia kind of takes over and kind of disregards that because I know it's a product of its time.
See, because this is when I was playing this game, it was interesting because I felt like I was on the other side of the fence, right? Because to me, like Final Fantasy VII is like one of those games that's like, yes, this deserves to be easily in the top 10. Like this is a phenomenal RPG, right? And then I talk to people that like never played it when it came out, and then they just recently played it like last month, and they're like, yeah, it was a good game, but I don't know, man. Like they had some issues, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? It's a phenomenal game, right? So now that I'm on the other side of the fence where I'm just like, I look it up and everyone's like, this is the greatest game of all time. And then I like download it and like, even things with like the character AI during battle, it's just driving me up the freaking wall. And I'm like, dude, this is getting in the way of me enjoying this game. And, but I mean, like by the time I got to the end of the game, I still felt like it was a really great RPG. I don't even think it was good. Like I felt like it was great. Like it had a great storyline. I mean, the voice acting in particular, I thought was phenomenal, especially for 2003. Because if you think about it, Final Fantasy X came out like 2001, I think, late 2001, and the voice acting there was kind of like okay. But like that's kind of how I reference things around that era. And the fact that this is only a couple years older and I'm like listening to this voice acting and it's top notch, dude. Even like by today's standards, like I felt like it was, I mean, aside from like the occasional like NPC, like most of the time it's like top notch. I even recognize some of the voice actors being like prominent people, like the guy that plays Neelix in Star Trek Voyager. I'm a big Star Trek fan, so I recognize that voice immediately, and he's all over the place in this game. And so I was really impressed by that, putting forth that much effort. The fact that they actually did like different alien languages and dialects, and they all seem to have their own distinct dialect. I was pretty impressed with too, although I did find it almost like torture whenever Zalbar or Big Z decided to tell me like a paragraph long story, and he's just like grunting and growling for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, dude, this is terrible.
I was actually going to bring that up. It's funny because I remember there was like advertisements for like we took and understood like how the languages of these races work in Star Wars and made sure we incorporated them into our game. And then I get like the Twilight, they're always like, Dikai, tukarapatude. And he keeps saying that like, over and over. I'm like, what? I'm like, no.
Yeah, he just, exactly that thing you just said. Like, dude, I feel like I heard that like 1,000 times. Like, I mean, but like it sounds familiar and I associate it with that race. So in that way it works. But I'm just like, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't know why you're still talking because I read this sentence like 4 times. So I just started like clicking once I was done reading it and like not letting them finish because, you know, they're just making noise out of their mouth. You know?
Yeah, they could have hit it better if they stopped repeating the same mannerisms over and over. I mean, I understand, again, it's a product of its time and maybe not enough space to put that much in. But I think there should have been some kind of clever workaround there, you know, to make it sound more natural because it got to the point where I was just reading it. and just skipping dialogue. As soon as I finished reading it, I didn't feel like hearing them finish it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a huge I like Star Wars, I like sci-fi. I'm a pretty big Star Trek fan, but as far as Star Wars goes, I never got real deep into it. I watched all the movies several times. I think I have like one book or somewhere, but that's about the extent of my how far I've gone into Star Wars. But to me, when I'm like running around, I kept thinking like, dude, somebody has to have a universal translator like they have in Star Trek, and just like have like a little scene where like they're like, where Bastila is just like, oh, here's our new universal translator. We found it, and a ancient ruin. Here, press the button. Boom, everyone speaks English.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like the fact that they like stuck to the movies, because that would not have been congruent with the movie. So I mean, I can respect it all the same.
Yeah, Lucasfilms in particular is very, very strict on the slightest thing you can do. That's why they actually went 1,000 years ago, so they could have more free reign. If they made a Star Wars RPG if it was set during when the original trilogy or the prequels happened, it's like they would be hit with so many strict set of rules that they would never be able to get the game through.
That's what I saw. They gave BioWare an option. They said, because at the time, I think the episode, the 1 through 3 were coming out. So they said, hey, if you're going to make a Star Wars game, it has to be one of two. You have one of two options. It has to either be set with like these characters, and it has to be like involved with the movie, and you're going to have to follow the movie plot line and everything like that. You can't kill off characters that are in the movie, so forth. Or you can go like several thousand years before and do a game in that time frame. So that way you can basically do whatever you want, but you can't use anything or any characters that are actually known, right? So you can't have like a super young Yoda or something like that. And if I was BioWare, I would have done the same exact thing. Like go back in time, just whatever, clean slate. I mean, that did bring up one of my first problems I had with the game initially, but I quickly got over it, was that I'm running around and so much of the like architecture and like the way things work is like so similar to like the movies. And I'm like, dude, this is like so far in the past. Like, how is this the same? But then like, it occurred to me like, okay, it's not really in the past. Like, this is just an excuse to be able to do our own thing. Like, we wanted to make a Star Wars game without all the red tape. So I quickly got past it, but
it's, I think it's beautiful that it did that, because as much as I love the original trilogy, and I like the recent 2 movies, and, I'm on the same ship with everyone, I don't like the prequels, but it's, I've always told myself, maybe the Skywalker trilogy or like saga should just end. Just kill off the rest of the Skywalkers in episode 9 and start a whole new thing. And with the new trilogy, and that's actually, I forgot the guy's name, but the guy who's going to be in charge of the new trilogy, or in the works of a new trilogy, is said he actually wants to jump back to the Old Republic era, and which I think will spark a lot of nice original ideas for Star Wars, and actually gives them a lot of free reign for it, and establish a whole new kind of universe for Star Wars. And that's reflected of BioWare when they made this, and it felt like such a breath of fresh air. It was like, okay, we don't have the basic, AT-ATs, TIE fighters, stuff like that. I got something I'd never seen before in the Star Wars universe, and the game did such a great job of doing that, and that's how I got immersed into it so quick. I was thinking that first, like, oh, they're going to put the typical, Star Wars stuff in that you expect. I mean, of course, there's Jedis and Sith and stuff, but they made you really look at a different angle of Star Wars and how, like, these people are on these planets, and just something you've never seen before. And I could praise that aspect all day.
Yeah, it did give you when I was playing the game, I kept having mixed feelings because of, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but some of the gameplay aspects I felt like were frustrating to me. However, I was so conflicted because BioWare did such a good job with building a world that was believable that it felt as like when I'm running around these towns, they felt like real like cities. They felt like real people that I was interacting with. The dialogue options were really well done. I mean, the ideas behind all the characters were really well done. The political landscape was very well implemented. It was very believable. So from that aspect, I totally agree. Like, it definitely gave you a new look into this universe, even if it was in the past. That actually was something different than you get in the movies. And one thing I really liked was I actually like how they explained the Force in this game, because in previous games, or previous like movies and such, it was always like this obscure thing that like I didn't really quite get, but I knew like the dark side was bad and like the light side was good. And if you basically, I thought that like if you become like an angry person, you can like eventually just start like doing bad stuff, and like that'll be the dark side or something. Like I didn't really get it. And this one, I kind of got it more, where it seems like it's like this constant balance thing you're trying to like work out, and that the dark side's just like it's not like just because you're a bad person. It like feeds on certain like elements that can like lead to one extreme. And it seems like the light side's the exact same, where some people are so enamored in the light they become almost pacifist, like they don't want to do anything. So it's just like trying to find that balance. And I really like that, how the Force was portrayed in this game. Was that similar experience with you, or?
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a issue I've had with BioWare choice systems, like all the way up to Mass Effect. And they've even acknowledged themselves of this with their attempt at Andromeda. But it, like, the choices you make in the game are like just like are radical decisions on both ends. It's like doing the right thing or doing a really bad thing on the other side to lead you to the dark side. Like leaving an orphanage alone, an orphan alone, or like take him with you. Like there's no like middle type of choice where it's like I'll just find him a place to live or something like that in the middle. It's like I don't want to take him, but I don't want to, abandon him and tell him to screw off either. They don't really have those kind of gray choices that much, and it's right. And I kind of get it because it's the mechanics of the system to get light points and dark points. I think if they ever did like a remake or something, I would want them to the choices to feel more natural, and then like over time, like psychologically, you start seeing that your actions have been more towards like the dark side or the light side. And that's too much asking for a game that was made like in 2003 and these choice systems weren't as well developed as they could be today.
Sure. I
say if they ever remake it, try to do it something more like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I routinely found myself saving like every 2 minutes, because what I tried to do on my playthrough was, because since I never played it before, I just naturally assumed that me playing the light side was going to be the canon story, right? And, if I wanted to later, I could go play the dark side and get that experience. But I didn't want to, do something weird the first time I played it and then like come out here and be like, this story sucked, it made no sense. Like, I wanted an actual, like, what the developers intended me to experience.
None of it's canon now till Disney says so.
Yeah, I read like Disney said like none of it's canon. Like, so whatever. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, well, I don't know why they say that. I guess if they wanted to be like, oh, like several thousand years ago, like the Jedi didn't exist, then I guess, I don't know. But whatever. That's a whole nother thing. But so I played on the light side, and because I was trying to do that, I did find myself saving like every 2 minutes, because occasionally I would just make a choice that I thought was not that big of a deal, and then it would be like, oh, dark side points. And I'm like, no. Situations like that where, like you mentioned with the orphan and such, it got me as well. But I found it kind of humorous. Some of the things I could do that would not cause me to lose light points. One of the biggest offenders, and I almost find it just funny, was when I was dealing with the sand people. Like I was playing the light side, so I knew I could just kill them all and just like get what I needed. But I was like trying to do like everything like legit. So I went to the dragon, I got like the little pearl or whatever, and then I was like, okay, let me go back here, and because they wanted the pearl, so I can learn about their history or whatever. So I went all the way back there, and I handed this guy the pearl, and he's this like history whatever sand person. He starts going on and on and on and on about their history. And like I start Googling it, like, hey, do they give me some kind of like special item, or do I get like light points at the end of this? And everyone was like, no, you don't get anything, and you don't get to keep the dragon pearl. And I was like, what? That's dumb. And they're like, yeah, but you could just kill him and then kill everyone in the village and then just get the pearl back. And I was like, wait, what? And I read down further, and apparently all you had to do was just like go like try to like open up like one of their like wicker baskets, and the sand people just freak out and they try to murder you. And then as long as you try to open and steal one of their things, then when they attack you, I was able to slaughter the entire village and not lose any light points. But if I didn't want to deal with this orphan, I got dark points. So I was kind of laughing about that, because I was just like, wait, what? I just like annihilated this entire like village, which was like easily like 40 people. It was like no problem. Or even like later when you're stuck on that planet because there's that field, that electrical field or whatever that's blocking ships from leaving, and you have to go speak with the elders, and they're like, yeah, one of our guys is captive in this village. We need you to go get it. And in order to go get the person that's a captive there, I had to like slaughter this entire village. And like I lost no light points for doing that. It was kind of funny how that was acceptable, but other like minor offenses were like very egregious. You know?
Yeah, the game is pretty black and white, but there are some weird ones that like just caught me off guard. Like I think for a second, like I was doing the right thing, and then all of a sudden it was like dark side points. I'm like, wait, I like that's what like any person would do. It's a common sense thing, like a good thing you do for someone. It's like all of a sudden it's like dark side points. I'm like okay, fine, that's fine. I'm already like all the way up in the blue anyways.
Yeah. So with since we're pretty much just getting into like the dialogue options, as for the story,
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No, I am your father.
No, it's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
everyone always everyone always talks about like, oh, the twist with this game. What did you know when you first played it? Did you know anything, or was it like a complete shock? Or
I kind of started putting things together, and I was a little surprised by it, by the reveal. And spoilers if you guys have never played this before, but and warning right now. Okay, good. Okay, so you are Darth Revan, and you lost your memory after Malik attacked you. And like you're found by the Jedis, and they manipulate your mind to make you have like amnesia and bring you to their side so you can fight against Malik. And save the galaxy and everything. So you find that there's actually a very gray area to this. Like, the Jedis were doing shady things to get a win, and, the Sith are the Sith, and, they'll do their own evil, passionate things. But it was really cool, because you're thinking to yourself, I'm like, I don't want to be with these guys, but I don't want to be with them either. Like, I think by the Old Republic lore, I think, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have that much knowledge of the outside lore, everything of Star Wars, but I believe Revan actually goes Gray Jedi, which is he uses power of both the light and dark side, but doesn't, stick to one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how Revan's story ends, and he fights and beats Malak, and Bastila gets turned back to the light side, all that stuff, and get the goofy ending.
From when I was playing this game, like I didn't know anything about the story. However, just from me Googling or whatever, like strategies and such, I thought this game had been spoiled for me, because I heard, the twist, and I was like, oh, well, most games have a twist, so I was kind of expecting something, right? And then I saw someone say, like, oh, like Bastila, she goes to the dark side, and I was like, oh, that's the twist. So I kept thinking, like, well, the game's spoiled for me, whatever. And I kept playing the whole game thinking, like, okay, I already know how this ends, I just have to finish it. And so I actually, because I was like, I thought that was the twist, I totally did not even try to read into anything else. Like, I was like, okay, like I know this whole game now. I don't need to think about it. So I did not expect him to be Dark Revan or Darth Revan. So when that happened, I was like, wait, what? That really threw me for a loop. So I was kind of like, dude, I was like really tempted to just like choose some of the dialogue options that were like, no, screw the Jedi. Like, I'm going to the dark side. Like, cause like, I was just like, dude, that's kind of messed up what they did. I mean, it should be his choice, They shouldn't just force that on him. So I kind of like that added a whole new element to the plot, to where, it wasn't just dark side light side good, dark side bad. There's this whole nother element where like, well, like you guys are good, but you're not that good. Like, you're willing to do bad stuff to meet your own end. So, I mean, I didn't see it coming. So I thought it was a pretty significant and pretty crazy reveal. But how did you feel about Bastila going to the dark side? Did you expect that?
That I didn't expect. I thought she was going to be like the voice of reason, no matter what direction you take. And I was thinking that worse, that she would like become your enemy if you like completely join the dark side, and that's like not the case. It's like, I believe there's even a ending where you can like, you both join the dark side and like fall in love with each other and stuff like that. I don't think I've ever done that one personally. But it's pretty crazy the stuff you can do with her.
Yeah, I saw from the dialogue options early that if you're staying on the light side, that you could do like a sort of romance or whatever with her. So I was like trying to do that. So I was actively trying to pick as much of the like romantic options as possible, just to try to see if I could like force that out, because I figured that was like supposed to be like a canon thing. And so the fact that I was like actively trying to like have my character like basically pick her up when she turned to the dark side, I found myself actually kind of conflicted. I was like, oh man, I feel like I messed up. I feel like I could have stopped this. So I was glad to see her return to the light side. But I don't know. The only thing I actually got was her saying them, like my character and her character, after she turns back to the light, saying they love each other. And I was like, man, that's not a romance. That's apparently there's some other dialogue option I missed where they could have had like a kiss or something, but that's about the extent of it. But
the problem I had with Bastila as a joining to the dark side is I was all for it, but I don't think they did much with it. Like, you get to the final dungeon, she's there, you fight with her, but they didn't use her much beyond that. You know, she has like her foreseeing powers and everything, and she could have done stuff to like really cause trouble for your team, but she didn't really cause that much trouble. She kind of came in and like fought with you a couple times and then went back with Malak. And in the final dungeon, she has like a revelation. She turns back to good, and you have your final battle with him. And I just kind of, it was more towards the end this happened, so I kind of understand. But I do kind of wish that she had, like, her joining the dark side had a bigger impact than, like, a very personal one.
Yeah, because I feel as good as, like, the story was for this game, I felt like there were certain aspects that were underutilized that could have made it an even better game. And one of the things I was surprised is the battle meditation that she had that would allow, I guess, like entire fleets to be defenseless, and was really helping the rebel side gain an advantage. That was very underutilized in my opinion, and I thought, like, when she turned to the dark side, I was like, oh, they're going to be using that battle meditation, and like we're just going to get crushed. And there was one scene where she was like starting to use it, and it was pretty bad, but like I was expecting her to like go back and like kill her mom or something. Like I was expecting like some like serious repercussions for her, like, falling so far. But all she ever did was she was a lot of talk. And then in that final scene, like you said, like there was a little bit that she did, but I mean, they really didn't do much else with the battle meditation. That was underutilized,
Right.
So, I mean, but other than that, I mean, I thought, it was her whole character arc was pretty good. I mean, especially aside from her as well, I found some of the other character story arcs pretty meaningful as well. One character in particular I did not like at the beginning of the game, but it actually sold me on it, was Karth.
Karth is very interesting. It's just how, like, well, before I say anything, it's really cool that, like, he's brought up like some like legendary hero of the Republic, and he's done like all these battles, and everyone reveres him as a hero. And then when you actually meet him, he's kind of that saying that, like, don't like look up to your heroes as like some perfect figure, because he's far from perfect. He's actually very emotional, not ready to jump in the fight right away. He has his own personal conflicting issues that you have to deal with him on the way. Like, he has major trust issues.
Yeah, at first when he was in the party and like I would talk to him, like every time I talked to him, he was like, "What? I just don't trust people. What do you want?" And like every time I talked to him, he would always like just start like getting upset about how he doesn't trust people. And like after like 3 times, I was like, okay, this is annoying and this isn't going anywhere. So like I took him out of my party, and like so like pretty much for most of the game, he just sat on the bridge of the Eben Hawk or whatever, however you pronounce it. But because he was right by the map, and I'd always talk to Bastila, I was like, let me just talk to him and see what's going on. And, every time I would talk to him, he'd be like, "I just don't trust you. What do you want me to do?" Once we got down to like why he didn't trust people, it's because like practically like everyone he like was close to went to the dark side, and like they killed like his family and stuff. I was like, oh man, okay, that's actually a really good reason not to trust people. But at first I was just like, dude, this is like really like annoying that this guy just that's all he ever has to say. But once he actually like opened up, he was actually very deep and had a lot to say. And I felt like he added a lot to the second half of the game that was missing in the first half. So I really like that character a lot. And I think the only other character that I actually like really got involved in was, well, the other 2 characters I got involved in besides Bastila, because I did her whole thing with her mom and everything, which I thought was good. But Mission, I did her whole character arc, which I really like that character as much as, there's nothing like seriously like emotional about like what's going on with her. In all honesty, like I just pretty much enjoyed most scenes with her. I felt like she's a very real character. Did you have any thoughts on Mission?
Not just Mission in particular, but you had a pretty colorful cast of characters, all like from like good intentions or bad intentions. Like you have dark side that you could slowly revert to the light, like
Yeah.
I forgot her name, but it was like the cat lady.
Oh, yeah. I can't. It starts with a C, I think, right?
Yeah.
Canderous or something like that. I can't remember. I honestly, I never used her. The only other two that I really talked to was Big Z or Zalbar or whatever. I did his whole plot thing on his planet, which I thought was pretty good. And then I got HK-47 at my party, and I just enjoyed his dialogue options because he was always like begging me to like allow him to like just shoot people.
He's expressing disbelief, as am I, but his duty requires that he report to his chieftain. Extrapolation. It would seem that we are at least worthy of curiosity for the moment. I would much rather this get bloody, Master, but it is your call.
Which, I don't know, I thought it was pretty funny. Like, he would just be like, please, Master, just let me shoot him. And so I really enjoyed that. But as far as like the other characters outside of Karth, Bastila, Mission, Zalbar, and HK-47, I rarely talk to. Like Jolie, I almost never talk to. The guy that's always giving you stems or whatever, like I never talk to that guy. So I know I probably should, because there's probably some interesting stuff in there. But
it's like Mass Effect, where KOTOR is kind of the blueprint for it. That they have like quests for each character that lets you dive more into their character and such. That's the part where it actually makes the game a lot longer, is if you go through each of these characters and build up relationships with them. It's not necessary, but I think it does add like a nice flavor to the story that I encourage anyone playing through the first time, at least if they want to take their time with the game, to try out. Because you really see like an interesting side of the Star Wars universe, and it further brings that notion that like there isn't good or evil in the world. There is or like it's not just black and white. There are like gray areas to everything. You understand why some people who are more on the dark side ideals are more like why they do what they do. Yeah. So it's interesting to dive into that, and that helps you build stronger choices in deciding to join with the light or the dark side.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I really enjoyed the most, was diving into the character stories that I chose to anyways. For the most part, they're pretty rewarding. And I think that that's probably one of my biggest criticisms with the ending of this game, is that I spent so much time like with these characters going through their stories and such. And then after the game ends, it's just like a typical, I think I was messaging you about it. Like you said, it's a typical Star Wars ending. Like they're just like on a planet, like they're giving you an award and everyone's cheering. I'm like, yeah, but I spent all this time with these characters. Like I thought like we were going to like go back and like, you know, I was going to see some other scenes. Like they spent all this time building up this like relationship with Bastila. I thought there was going to be an extra scene with that. I thought there was going to be a scene with like Big Z back on his home planet with like his father or something like that. After I finished all that, I thought for sure we were going to go back and visit that. Or like Karth was going to like visit like his like gravesite or something of his wife or something. I don't know, something. But instead, like it was just like, oh nope, you defeated Darth Malak. So yep, good job. Here's this like quick like 30-second like congratulations, here's your medal, and then credits. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that ending was like a group of Ewoks away from being way too cheesy. And the ending is kind of disappointing in that game for the light side. You know, and the dark side's typical, like you take over the galaxy and everything as Darth Vader.
I did watch that ending on YouTube because I was interested to see how that went. That was pretty wild. But I think I would have been disappointed with that as well. But I think the dark side ending was better than the light side, but I think both of them were pretty lackluster.
Yeah, I think they could have just added a little more to it, because even the end of Return of the Jedi was, you know, Luke standing there burning his father's corpse. Yeah, and they even had scenes like that, and like Knights of the Old Republic is like you escape the final dungeon, and you go back, and everyone's like, "You're a hero, we love you," and that's it. It's like you don't really see much beyond that.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, what it was is like that scene was okay. It just wasn't. You didn't see anything that was like really meaningful beyond that. And it wouldn't. I don't think it would have seemed as odd if the game had not been such character-driven storylines that had you, building all these relationships with these characters. But I mean, that's like I think my biggest criticism with the story was just that aspect, just with the ending. So, I mean, there's lots of games out there that have sour endings, and I wouldn't say this was a bad ending. It was just like not what I wanted. But do you want to move on to like the gameplay? Because I know we could talk about this for like hours.
Just to point out one more thing.
Go ahead.
I thought Darth Malak was a pretty great villain. He was pretty ruthless. You see where he came from. He has like anger toward Darth Revan, because you know how the Sith work is like they like to overthrow each other. So it's an interesting arc to see him, and like even after, he has everything. He still has that angst against Revan and wants to just destroy him and take him off the face of the world so he could be the true Sith. It's kind of your typical Star Wars fare with him, but he's a fun villain still regardless.
Yeah, when he first came on the screen, I was kind of like, okay, this guy is clearly just Darth Vader. Like he's got some mechanical device hooked up like over his mouth or whatever, which I later found out he's missing a jaw, and I was like, whoa, like did this guy have a tobacco problem? I don't know. But yeah, he just seemed like a Darth Vader like character to me at first, and I was like, okay, this is like pretty stock villain for a Star Wars story. And that's one hump that I had to get over initially with this game, was that I kind of have this bias with Star Wars, and that like I always feel like the original trilogy, it was a great story, and then I feel like every like new thing I see, they're always like trying to like reinvent that same story. And so you'll have like the dark side and the light side, and like someone's
related to someone.
The dark,
in some way.
Yeah, and it's just like the same thing over and over again. So I was like, oh, okay, clearly like this is going to be like I'm supposed to be Luke Skywalker. This guy's supposed to be Darth Vader. I would not be surprised if this guy ends up being like my uncle or something. But yeah, once he develops more, I actually found that he was actually a really good villain. One scene that I really liked was, I can't remember who, but somebody failed getting us, and I can't remember his name. I think his name was like Saul or something. He used to be in the light side, but he comes up to Darth Malak and he's like, yeah, he failed getting them. I'm sorry. And Darth Malak says, the price for failure is death, right? And the guy's like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. And he's like, but don't worry, it wasn't your failure, it was his. And I was like, oh, okay. See, that was a little bit deeper. It showed a little bit much more thought, because I totally expected this guy to just like be supremely evil and just like choke people out like constantly with like the Force. But so that was a good development, and I do like how he did show us a very evil side with destroying all of
You summoned me, Lord Malak.
The search for Bastila is taking too long. We cannot risk her escaping Taris. Destroy the entire planet.
The entire planet, Lord Malak? But there are billions of people on Taris. We'd be slaughtering countless innocent civilians, not to mention our own men still on the surface.
Your predecessor once made the mistake of questioning my orders, Admiral. Surely you are not so foolish as to make the same mistake.
Of course not, my Lord Malak. I will do as you command, but it will take several hours to position our fleet.
Then I suggest you begin immediately. You are dismissed, Admiral.
Yes, Lord Malak.
I felt like that really set up why the dark side was, or why the Empire was so bad. So I agree with you, man. He was a good villain, and that ending boss fight with him, I felt like that was pretty epic. Like,
yeah, that's some good Star Wars stuff right there.
Yeah, dude. Like, With the soundtrack with this game, it was pretty hit or miss. But that freaking boss fight, like music that was going on, like while I was fighting, was like epic as hell. And then with him just like constantly like sucking like the force or whatever, life force out of those like old Jedi or captured Jedi, and it was like reviving him and stuff. Like, dude, that boss battle was ridiculous. I had to actually do it like 3 times until I eventually got to the point where I was like, okay, once I get low on health, I'm just gonna run around and heal while he chases me, and I'm like just constantly like like having like PTSD from seeing like a red glare of a lightsaber like in the corner of my eye because I was trying not to die. So that was a good boss fight, dude. So all in all, I really like that character. It seemed like he kind of switched to the light side almost at the end, right?
Yeah, if you saw in like scenes of the past, it's like he was kind of a conflicted person to begin with. So it's not too surprising to see that.
The dark side is strong in this place. I can feel its power. Is this wise? The ancient Jedi sealed this archway. If we pass beyond this door, we can never go back. The Order will surely banish us. Are the secrets of the Star Forge so valuable? Can its power truly be worth the risk?
What happened to his jaw? Did they ever tell you?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was...
Because I remember seeing like old scenes where like he's with Revan and like he has like a not a disfigured face.
I believe he was the one who betrayed Revan, and why Revan was the way he was now. And I think while they fought, I think Revan got knocked his jaw off before. It's either that or Bastila,
something like that.
But I don't think it was Bastila. I believe it was Revan who damaged him before Revan lost the fight.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like that the design for that character. I mean, all in all, yeah, man, that was a good villain. Was there? I'm trying to think what the story was. There anything else? One thing I do like that's kind of related to the story of this game that I did want to bring up that I forgot was the variety of locales that you visit. I mean, it's not really story based, but I felt like it helped a lot that like every planet was distinctly different. You know, one of them was like a water planet. One of them was a desert. One of them was a jungle. You know, it added a lot of variety. I hate when games use like, I feel like the same assets for like the same like different areas. This just added like it felt like I was on an adventure where I was actually going to like a new planet, you know?
Yes, so, it kept those important RPG elements in, which is creating variety in where you go. And of course, we got the typical Tatooine and Kashyyyk planets. Like somehow, some way, we always know about Tatooine, but they still found a way to offer something different that we don't usually see from Tatooine. And I thought that was really cool. Like, we got to see more of like the gang leader side of everything. Yeah, and more in depth with the Sand People. But like you said, like it had great variety, and I enjoyed going to each planet because there was just something different to take in. Yeah, I mean, by the time I was able to leave the planet, I was usually pretty done with that planet. I was like, thank God, let me get off this rock. But yeah, it did add a lot, so I really appreciated that. But with the gameplay, dude, I think that I really got it was very, very frustrating for me because I know the battle system evidently is supposed to be like a Dungeons and Dragons type deal, but like it would just do annoying things that would like drive me nuts. So like when you click on an enemy, it brings up this queue where you can queue up different actions. So you can like attack and then like also have like a med pack or you can use the force or whatever, or you can use stems and like kind of like boost yourself up. And that seems like a good idea on paper. It's almost like a Final Fantasy 12 Gambit system. It seems like where you can like build up little strategies. However, like
it would just do annoying things like it would build up the queue with attack. So you'd have like 4 attack queues, but then like if you needed to heal and you clicked on a med pack, then the med pack would be in the back of the queue. So then the only way to get him to heal immediately would be to disengage and then click the med pack, but then the med pack would not go in the queue. It would just be like you just do a one-time med pack and it wouldn't let you queue it. So then after you do the med pack, then you have to go re-click on the enemy and then click attack again. And like it was just this like doesn't sound too bad, but when you have your entire party healing and then you have to go back through and like quickly like click on like all the enemies again, like I found that frustrating. I felt like the AI in particular, like whoever designed the AI for these characters should be shot. Like, dude, like I would like click on an enemy and I would start attacking it, and almost like half the time, like my other people would all choose their own enemy to fight, and it would just drag the battle out forever. So then I would like click on my other party members, have them all click on the same guy, and then they would all attack that person until their queue was done, and then they would turn around and start attacking the other person. Sometimes this enemy would only need one more hit until they were dead, and they would still choose the other like enemy with like full health instead of just finishing off this one person. And so like it would just do annoying things like that would just drive me nuts. Or like they would just like throw a grenade like right where I'm standing and kill me. Like so like it was just like constantly like I feel like 60 to 70% of the time that I died was because of the AI. Or because they would even like do dumb things like just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like run through this mine that like you can clearly see. Or like I would click on it for them to like disengage it, and instead of like before they even got a chance to like kneel down and like disengage it, they would just like run right into it and it would explode. So like if they did remake this game, that would be the biggest thing that I would like be in support of, was remake the AI so that like it just like flows better. The whole time I kept wanting, like I was trying to see like maybe there's like a mod for like a Final Fantasy 12, like just the Gambit level of AI customization. I was like, just let me control the AI, just let me like, choose what I want them to do, because oh my god, the AI drove me nuts. Did you have any issues with it?
Yeah, that's.
I think it was better back in the day, but
yeah, you reflected exactly like what I think about it. There are a lot of delays to the command. Things can go pretty smoothly most of the time, but when you get to a point where something out of the normal happens, it feels a little chaotic trying to get everything back to the way you want it to. And the delays of the queue can really mess things up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have too much to say beyond that, but like it's a good combat system, and I'm glad it lets you do input commands and let you freeze the game and let you choose what you want. Because the game, if you play like purely in action mode, it does feel chaotic. When you put the wait mode in, though, I feel like the level of strategy is more apparent when you do that.
Yes. So if they did not have that wait mode in there, I don't know if I would have gotten through the game. Because, dude, yeah, exactly. That wait mode just saves you. Because I just got in the habit of just like, okay, once it starts feeling like too much, I'm just going to press the space bar, because I was playing on the computer, and I'm just going to pause this, disengage everyone from doing everything, redo everyone to have exactly what I want them to do, and then just have my hand close to that space bar in case like once mission starts or HK-47 starts shooting somebody else instead of finishing off somebody, let me just hit that space bar, reposition them back on who I want them to do. So it took a little bit of a bouncing. I think by the end of the game I kind of got a handle on it, and that like I was not so much like I got a handle on how the system was supposed to be, but I found ways to, kind of combat some of the more shoddy elements, I felt like, with the gameplay. So, I don't know. Even with like the inventory management, that whole inventory management screen was just like a kind of like a little bit much to try to like figure out. Even when you're trying to like equip items, like trying to figure out which item is the best, it literally takes you quite a while to figure out what's the best. But I mean, towards the end of the game, I pretty much figured it out. But I definitely think if they're going to remake this game, that they would definitely need to revamp that entire system because, yeah, it needs some issues, or it has some issues. I mean, but to be honest, I think I only bought stuff from shops like maybe like 12 times. Like, dude, I had so many credits by the end of the game. I had like 40,000 credits because I kept like just finding stuff that was like pretty good, and then I could upgrade it. So like, you know, I'd be like, dude, I'm not spending 20,000 credits on that armor because it's pretty comparable to what I have. And so I don't know if that's a criticism or a positive, or maybe I just really worked the system. But I never had to buy anything, so I mean, I didn't play it on hard mode, so maybe that's what I should do. But I don't know.
Well, the inventory system is a nightmare. That's a given. It's not no okay. Real.
I was trying to be nice, but
way to organize it, and the stat systems to it can be pretty. I mean, unless you take time to study it. I just did
the recommended. Yeah,
exactly.
I just did recommended on my first playthrough because I didn't want to screw myself up. So
and I do auto level up. I didn't feel like allocating the stats or anything. And it's like, maybe sometimes I'd like put a little bit into charisma just so I can have an easier time with conversations. But besides that, I let it do it. I'm the type of person that doesn't care too much about allocating every tiny little stat I have. I just want to progress in the game. Auto level me up. Tell me what's the best to do. And let me be on my way. I'm not looking to break the game. I'm not looking to challenge myself more than what the game's offering me. Just auto level me up, and I will work with whatever you give me.
Yeah, so that's all I did. I did auto level, and you know, that worked fine for me. I will say for the first maybe like third of the game, dude, I was dying like constantly. Like I was just like it was. Dude, I must have died like 30 times. Like it was ridiculous. Like I was saving like every 2 minutes because I was just coming up with like new strategies to try to get past these enemies. And I didn't realize until about a third of the way through the game, when only my character was left, that when I was attacking, that I was just basically missing almost every time. And I realized that I was wearing armor that had +9 defense, but it had 0 dexterity. So basically I just missed every single time. So once I got some new armor that was like a little more balanced, I started just like wrecking everything and just going through everything like it was butter. So I'm kind of interested to see how this game would be on like a hard mode with me having that kind of awareness now where the equipment that you wear actually matters. So I did appreciate the fact that like there's a little bit more in depth with the equipment than, you know, some RPGs where it's just like, well, this armor has, you know, +6 attack defense, and this one has +8. So get the one with +8. This one, there's a little bit more variety with that. I like it. Didn't go over the edge with like other games like Tales, where it's just like, you know, this armor is +6 defense, but it changes these other 16 attributes. You know, it wasn't so over the top that I was just like wanting to pull my hair out. So I think that one aspect of it was really good.
Yeah, it's simple enough to understand. It looks a little intimidating at first, but once you actually look into it a bit, it's actually a lot more simple than it looks. And a lot of times you can get away with not having like the best gear on you as long as you know how to work your abilities and know how to manage your party well enough. So that's why a lot of times you don't feel tempted to go to a shop or go out of your way to upgrade stuff, is because you do feel like you have a level of control on the skill side. So you're not too like tempted to say, oh, let me go grind, or let me go build up some gold so I can buy stuff at a shop. And I think that's a positive thing, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly, I think you said it right, because when I was playing this game and I was just constantly dying, when I got to Tatooine, I was just like, okay, I've had enough. Like, dude, I literally, like, right when you get to that planet, like, you walk into the city, like, all of a sudden, like, these, like, dark Jedi are there and they, like, try to kill you. And, like, dude, I got down to, like, my last dude, like, last 10% health. And I'm, like, running around the city, like, trying to, like, heal myself, getting chased by this, like, random occurrence. And I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, I am not doing something right. And I tried going back to the Jedi planet. I think it was Tatooine. I don't know. I tried to go back there because I knew there was some beasts there that would, like, auto-populate or respawn. And, like, I could defeat those. And I was like, I'm just going to grind for, like, 3 hours. And that way I'll be able to just plow through this game. And, yeah, dude, I would go back there and I'd only get, like, 50 XP. And I would need, like, 20,000 more. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. So that actually forced me to, like, actually kind of learn how the game is supposed to be played. And once I learned that, I was able to, like, update my equipment or whatever. I was able to, like, you know, upgrade some stuff. And I wasn't able to grind my way out of it. But the game isn't made for you to grind. It's made for you to focus on the equipment, focus on upgrading, focus on using stems to, like, upgrade your strength temporarily. And so once I started playing the game like it was supposed to be played, I had a lot better experience with it. So I kind of want to run through it again eventually at some point, but I got too many games to play, but maybe I will eventually. But I had a good time with it. Did you ever do any of the, like, swoop racing or any of the card game or anything like that?
I did it my first playthrough. When I play through it now, I just kind of go through the story. I'm like, I've been there, done that, so I don't feel the completionist side of me anymore.
Yeah.
But the first time through, they were fine.
Yeah, besides the required swoop race, which you'll win that, even it's pretty hard not to, unless, you know, I think I had to do it twice because I didn't really understand it the first time, but the second time I got it, like, easily. But if you actually try to do swoop racing, like, as an optional thing, with this, like, Hut character, that dude. Okay, I beat all 3 times eventually. It took me 4 hours of just nonstop saving, and then when I lost loading my old save file, and then, like, just keep doing that until I build up. And I was able, after 4 hours, I was able to beat all 3 tiers and get the highest, like, score possible. And I got all these, like, items from, like, you know, that whole swoop race area that I could sell. I was like, dude, I'm going to have, like, 100,000 credits. And I go and sell all these, like racing bonds that they give you to sell. And I got, in total, 5,000 credits. That was such a letdown. I was like, dude, it took 4 hours and I got 5,000 credits. I was so irritated.
Yeah, those mini games are not too rewarding on the quest side. I think that's another reason why I don't do them to begin with. I think I know it's just going to get so much for it.
Yeah, so I didn't even bother with the card game. Well, I played one game and I was like, I don't understand this, so I'm not going to play. So, you know, it is what it is. But I'm trying to think anything else with this game. I feel like I still have, like, a lot more to say because I had a good time with it, and all in all, I think there's one other thing I want to bring up. It's a point of contention, dude. Whenever you had to get in the little like aqua suit, like underwater suit, or the space suit, and you had to run to, like, another part of a facility underwater or in space, the character moves so freaking slow. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. And when I kept asking myself when I was doing that, I'm like, isn't this Star Wars where we can just come up with anything? Like, put little boosters on your feet so you can just go right through the water. I understand the intent of it was to bring a little horror value to, like, the fears of the deep sea. But, man, like, gameplay-wise, it was such a drag to get through.
Yeah, dude, especially the underwater part, the when you're in space and you have to do it, it's not so bad because it's, you know, you can kind of see the door you have to get to. But, like, underwater and you didn't really know where you had to go. And I'm like, dude, I can go down this hallway, but oh my God, it's going to take me like 8 minutes. Like, dude, it just goes so slow. So yeah, I was like wondering why BioWare didn't like give me like a little jetpack or something that I could just like zoom around the ocean with. But I was just like, dude, please do not have me do this ever again. So, but yeah, I just had to bring that up because that drove me nuts. But I mean, other than that, I know it sounds like I'm bringing up a lot of negative things with this game, but all in all, I had by the time I finished it, I had a really good time with it. I mean, I didn't feel like the game was padded too much. I do feel like sometimes like they would just have me fight people just to fight people.
Yeah, it's very focused. But I agree.
Yeah, but other than that, like it was really, really good. I mean, I'll be honest, I Googled most of the puzzles because I was like, I don't have time to figure this out because I hate puzzles. So that's a knock on me. But you know, it was really good. Go ahead.
I think if I gave like a general, like I definitely recommend it, but to anyone that wants to try it out, I'll give like the same kind of warning I will with like something like not even so much Final Fantasy VII, but like graphically, sure. But is to acknowledge that it is a game that came from 2003, and you kind of need to be more open-minded about some of the outdated aspects, because these outdated aspects are just primitive versions of what you play today in games like Mass Effect and the latest Dragon Age, or just latest BioWare games in particular. And if you want a good idea of where it all came from with a brilliant story made on top of that, that's, I believe, 100% worth going through. The slightly outdated mechanics to the game, and if you're a Star Wars fan, it's a must pick up, and it's very cheap on Steam. The most expensive I've ever seen it on Steam is $10, and you can play, and it's backwards compatible on Xbox One and Xbox 360. You can buy the original one for like just a few bucks, or you can buy it digitally.
If you get it on Steam, there's all sorts of mods you can get as well.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I can't recommend it enough. It's still to this day my favorite BioWare game.
Yeah, I'll just mimic what you said. I mean, it's got some issues, so I mean, you know, if you don't like playing older games, you might want to stay away. But I mean, it's got a really good story. It'll keep you captivated. It's worth playing till the end. It does have a lot of issues that make it a little frustrating to play, which I think is all the reason why it probably should be remade, especially since it's held in such high regard. I don't see why they wouldn't remake it. I mean, they don't even have to do that much. I mean, I think they could just honestly throw out the combat system, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but just make it like an action RPG, and I think it would be, I think it would flow a lot better.
This type of game is appropriate for it. I agree.
I mean, yeah, it was really good. I kind of want to jump into the sequel, which I know was not made by BioWare. They decided to make Mass Effect instead, right?
After was
Knights of... I know there's a sequel, KOTOR 2 or whatever.
Yeah, that was made by a different company. That one's pretty okay.
I think it was Obsidian, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's they moved to Jade Empire, and then I don't know too much about BioWare history, but I believe Mass Effect was after Jade Empire.
Yeah, so I was reading up on it, and they said that they were approached to do the sequel for that game, and they looked at it and they're like, "Hey, we don't want to just keep making Star Wars games. We want to make our own franchise." So they took what they learned from KOTOR and they made Mass Effect, and they're like they said they weren't going to do a sequel for KOTOR. So, I mean, you know, that obviously worked out for them. So
they kind of did, you know, with the Old Republic, the MMO. I played through that.
Yeah, they ended up.
And the story's really good, but the MMO aspects was lacking when I played it. If you're looking for more KOTOR story, you could get it from that. But I think for the long run, I don't think it's that great of a game. But if you want like the stories from the classes that you can play, they're pretty good stories.
So I'm kind of interested in probably just maybe experimenting around with this game, playing on the dark side, seeing how that goes a little bit. There is a fan mod, where it adds 10 more hours of story to the game. And apparently like all these fans got together and they recorded like voice acting and such. And it's like 10 more hours of telling like the backstory of Revan, and I'm kind of interested to download that and like install that and give that a whirl and see how that goes, because it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be really, really pretty good. They said it's professionally voice acted. I don't know what that means, but I assume that means that like everyone has a mic. It's not like, you know, them talking into their like laptop mic or something. But but it's supposed to. I was looking at like videos of it, and it looks like something BioWare made. So I'm assuming they just used assets from the game and such. But it looks really good. So I probably want to check that out. But that concludes our discussion with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Next week, we're going to be having a topic-based episode. But if you're at all interested in the Secret of Mana remake coming out, we're currently running through the Secret of Mana series, or I shouldn't say series because we're just running through that one game. But we're going to be playing through that and talking about that, and also just jumping in on that remake. So if you're at all interested in that and you haven't played that game, I would definitely recommend checking that out. Just download an emulator, play the Super Nintendo version. I won't think anything less of you if you do that.
It's on the classic Super Nintendo also, and you can buy it from... you can technically get the iOS version, the Super Nintendo Classic version. I believe the Wii U Virtual Console might have it. I wouldn't... I wouldn't quote me on that. But there are several ways to get
those versions.
I'm playing it. I'm playing the actual original cartridge on Super Nintendo. So
yeah, well, if you wanted to do that, that would be a little expensive.
It's 80. Right? So I believe it's $80 right now for just the cartridge.
Yeah. So, anyways, you have several options. I sometimes don't like playing re-releases of these games because I feel like something's like either they just like did a poor emulation of it or whatever, and like the load time's atrocious or something like that. But I imagine the SNES Classic probably is very, very accurate to the original. So if you really want to spend the money and buy it, you can do that. So anyways, play the game. Star Wars KOTOR has my thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. So we'll see if we jump into more of maybe the sequel at another time. But until next week, we'll see you then.
Take care, everyone.